Hi, everyone. How are you? How are you? Let me see if we've got people watching today. We should do because we had a good turnout yesterday for our live lesson yesterday. I hope everyone has had a good start to their Sunday or is enjoying the end of their Sunday. And as we talked about in yesterday's lesson, we looked at two of the more difficult tenses, which are the future continuous, future perfect. Today we will be doing the past continuous, past perfect, which kind of follow the same pattern. So this could be easier than yesterday's one. Hello, Dan. Hi, Lotfi. Thank you for joining again. I hope today is as helpful as yesterday's. So we can get started. So, of course, when we talk about the past, we have the past simple, which is just something that happened before. And as you know, you talk about it as it was, I was, and then the verb changes to the past tense, whether it's a regular or irregular verb. You know this, we don't have to go over this too much, but for example, we went to the zoo last week. So then past continuous would be actions in progress at that point in the past. So remember when we looked at future continuous actions that will be continued in the future, same thing, but in the past. Now, why would we want to talk about a continued action in the past? Well, typically it's because we're telling a story. That's typically how we use past continuous. We're explaining something that happened. We are giving a reason as to why something else didn't happen. It's a storytelling process. It's a narrative. So, for example, as you can see on the screen, yesterday at 10 p.m. I was sleeping. Now, if we just left it at this, the listener would feel, okay, and why are you telling me this information? The reason we would say it in this way is because it's understood you're going to go on and say something else. So this is different from the past simple, because past simple you would just say, I was sleeping yesterday at 10, full stop. But yesterday at 10, I slept. My mistake, I slept yesterday at 10 p.m. But if I was to say yesterday at 10 p.m., I was sleeping, and as the example says, when Natasha opened the door and something happened, we understand you're describing a situation, describing a story. So, for example, what were you doing before this lesson? Before this lesson, I was preparing my lunch. Before this lesson, I was doing exercise. We understand it was a continued action before something else that we're going to then go on and talk about. Now, of course, you can just have it as a full sentence. If I ask you, why didn't you answer the phone at 10 p.m.? Oh, I was sleeping. Full sentence makes complete sense. But typically it's a storytelling tense. And then the other tense we're going to look at today is past perfect. Now, this is something that happened before, and this is where it gets a bit complicated, something that happened before another past action. So again, it's storytelling. So for example, before the lesson had started, the internet cut out. So I was worried that I wouldn't be able to do the lesson. So the internet cut out before the lesson started. So it's always describing in a sentence where you're using past perfect, there's always two situations that happen, but one happens before, and we recognize it's probably finished before this other thing happened. So for example, when I met her, I had never been in a serious relationship. We understand that once you met her, you now have been in a serious relationship. Dan asks, you stopped going live for 1 year. Now you're going to continue it. Is it right? I didn't stop going live. I did have live lessons. They just weren't frequently. And I don't know if I will do it every week. I do like doing the live lessons, but I don't know at the moment if I'm going to go live every week. If I do, if something changes, I will always update you, and I always put on the channel when I'm going to go live. Okay. I know a lot of people, when I go live, they say, oh, you don't post enough. You don't do enough live lessons. I do 3 or 4 videos a week, and I physically don't have the time to do more than that. So I do as much as I can. Okay, so another example for past perfect. He noticed that I had cleaned the car. It was clean and shiny. So he noticed a past action, but I had cleaned the car before that past action, before he noticed. So something happened before he noticed. If you have any questions about the difference here or what I've explained doesn't make sense, please let me know. Write the questions in the chat, or if you're watching later, you can comment the questions. I will give you some questions that I think will help you understand. And as we did yesterday, feel free to answer them in the chat, think them out loud at home, or write in the comments after the lesson. So the first one. Hi. I think that's a new watcher says hi. Hi, how are you? So this question would be past perfect. What had you done before you went to bed last night? So going to bed last night was a past action, but before that past action, what else had you done? So I would answer this by saying, before I went to bed last night, I had cleaned the house and I had washed my clothes. So I was really tired and I fell asleep really early. Another way we use the past perfect, which is very common, is when we ask about jobs, living arrangements. So this is a good question. Where had she worked before she moved to another city? So maybe someone's just joined your office and they've just moved there. So where had she worked before she moved to our city? She had worked in 3 different companies in 3 different cities. I believe there are some examples on this page, so let's go through them and then I will go back to the questions. So past simple, of course, we ate out yesterday. The action is finished. When she opened the door, she pretended that we weren't there and she went to her room. This is all past simple. This happened, this happened, this happened. It's just a list of events. Past continuous. Last night I was walking home and listening to my iPod when a car came quickly round the corner. So something happened to stop those things from happening. I was walking home and then this happened. Remember, it's storytelling. The sun was shining and lots of tourists were lying on the beach. Suddenly, so again, storytelling. I'm setting the scene. What was happening before this thing happened? After dinner, I went into the living room and saw that she was crying. So it was a continued action in the past. Then past perfect. When she opened the door, he had already left. He left before she opened the door. So we need to say he had already left, not just he already left or he left. Because if I said when she opened the door, he left, it sounds like she opened the door for him to leave. But what we want to explain is she opened the door to speak to him and he was already gone. I realized that I had been there before. So a past action. Imagine you go to a restaurant with a friend in the past and you're telling a story to a coworker, or last night I went to a restaurant with my friend and I suddenly realized I had been there before. So you've got two past actions, going with your friend and being there before you went there with your friend. So, some more past perfect questions that I want you to think about the answer to. This is a good one. Had we met the teacher before we started the course? Had you met me or seen me before you came to this live? You would say something like, no, we had not met the teacher. This was the first time we met the teacher. Had you seen her before? So that first time you met her, you realized you had seen her before. Okay, past continuous is a bit easier. So past continuous questions. What were you doing when the teacher walked into the room? So you can feel this one. The teacher walked into the room and you were actively doing something at the time. When the teacher walked into the room, I was checking my phone. What were they talking about? What were they talking about during the meeting? They were talking about promotions and the year going forwards. Now, what we did in yesterday's class, I think, is more common. It's more common that we will talk about the future continuous, future perfect, because it's to make plans. The past continuous, past perfect is all about storytelling and reflecting on the past, which of course we only do if we know someone quite well. So you might not use these two often, which is why you need the practice. And often this is where students struggle because they don't have a lot of practice retelling stories in English. Usually you tell a story in your native language, don't you? Okay, one more continuous question. What were you working on when the phone rang? What were you working on when the phone rang? So yesterday I was in the zone. In English, you can say in the zone when you're really focused on something. Yesterday I was in the zone and then the phone rang and I completely lost my concentration. Oh, what were you working on when the phone rang? I was working on a new YouTube video. I was working on a new project. I was working on new designs for my kitchen, whatever it is. I was working on. But again, if this was a storytelling and we wanted to use the past perfect, you might say, I had been working on this new project, but because the phone rang, I lost my concentration and couldn't remember what I was doing. So even if you're asked in the future continuous, you can answer in the past, even if you're asked in the past continuous, you can answer in the past perfect. Okay, let's do an exercise together, and I'm sure there will be questions, so please feel free to ask. Let me just check that you can see the entire thing. No, I need to make it a bit smaller. Okay. So, it was Sunday afternoon. It was Sunday afternoon. A cookery program on TV when. So this is going to go on and explain something else that happened. So could we use the continuous? I was watching a cookery program. Could we use the past simple? I watched a cookery program. Or could we use past perfect? I had watched a cookery program on TV when something else happened. Oh, I just realized you can't see the drop-down menu. That's really frustrating. Mm. Okay, so I'm going to have to give you all the options. That's annoying because I can see them on my screen, but it's not sharing on the live screen. So it's was watching, watched, or had a watched. Was watching, watched, or had watched? Which one do you think it might be? Was watching. Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Perfect. Exactly. I was watching. Why? Because we understand that the cookery program was interrupted by the next situation. So it was a continued action that was interrupted. So, number two, I was watching a cookery program on TV when I was realizing how hungry I was, when I had realized how hungry I was, or when I realized how hungry I was. Now, notice that this is the end of the sentence. So, even though we go on to say something else, this particular sentence has ended. So, it's not like we're going to say something else in this sentence. I hope that's a good enough clue. Was realizing, had realized, or realized. Dan says, it shows that you were live 1 year ago. Yeah, I just had a look as well, and it does seem that my last live stream was last year, which is longer than I thought it was. I didn't think it was that long ago. I don't actively decide to do and to stop and to not do, and I just try to do videos when I have time, when I have the energy, when I have good ideas. So that might be why sometimes it's not so consistent. Realized, exactly, thank you. I realized how hungry I was. Why? Because that's kind of the end of the thought process, isn't it? I realized I was hungry. Done. Not I realized I was hungry, so then I did this. Just I realized I was hungry. Number three, but of course I was hungry. I was eating anything since lunch, ate anything since lunch, or hadn't eaten anything since lunch. This is a negative. So I was eating anything, I ate anything, or I hadn't eaten. Realized, perfect, exactly. Don't forget that the American spelling is with the Z and the British English spelling is with an S. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter which way you spell it. However, try to only use one spelling. So, for example, if you're writing an email, make sure that you're always using the American spelling in that email or the British spelling in that email. If you mix between the two, that's when it looks like a mistake. Of course, because I was born in England, I always use British English, but a lot of people I communicate with, they use American English, so it really doesn't matter which one you use. Okay, so number three, I was eating anything, I ate anything, I hadn't eaten anything. I hadn't eaten anything. Exactly. Thank you very much. I hadn't eaten anything. I had not eaten anything since lunch. And then we're going to go on to say something else that happened. Because they use the past perfect. So the suggestion is something else is happening as well. And I was running a race in the morning, had run a race in the morning, or ran a race in the morning. Was running a race in the morning, had run a race in the morning, or ran a race in the morning. Now think about the time. So she's talking about it was Sunday afternoon, and this race was in the morning before she started watching the cookery program. So it's almost 3 past activities ago. So we should use the past perfect because we're describing a situation that happened before another past situation. So, and I had run a race in the morning. Exactly. Well done. I had run a race in the morning. Number 5, biscuits. I was thinking, I thought, I had thought. Biscuits. I was thinking, I thought, I had thought. This is a bit of a strange sentence by itself because you feel like there's information missing there. But look at the length of the sentence. She thought biscuits. The thought that was going through her mind was biscuits. So I was thinking, I thought, I had thought. I was thinking, I thought, I had thought. I thought. I thought. Biscuits, I thought. Full stop. So I'm just telling you something that happened in the past. I thought about biscuits. My mother, number 6, my mother gave me a jar of delicious homemade biscuits. My mother had given me a jar of delicious homemade biscuits, or my mother was giving me a jar of delicious homemade biscuits. Now, technically, every single one of those is grammatically correct. It just depends on the context. So let's think about this situation. She's at home. She hasn't said she's with someone else. It feels like she's by herself. And she's hungry. And she's remembering something that happened earlier. My mother gave me a jar. My mother was giving me a jar. My mother had given me a jar. Hey, from Argentina, what's the platform? So the platform is Test English. I believe it's .com. It's fantastic. It's a really good website. You can do vocabulary, you can do grammar, you can do reading, writing tests, you can do use of English tests. Actually, one of my students recommended me this website, and I've used it ever since. I think I've used it for over a year now. It's very good website. So thank you for asking, because I'm sure it will be helpful to others. And after the live lesson, I can always leave this link in the comments for anyone that wants to go and have a look and do it by themselves. So yes, thank you for asking. My mother gave me a jar of delicious homemade biscuits. So technically it's Grammatically correct, yes. But the thing is, we need to understand the situation. So she's remembering something that happened before so that she can eat now, but remember that she's telling us this story in the future at this time. So she's at work on Monday morning telling you what happened on Sunday. So all of this in the past, and the mother gave the biscuits in the past. So my mother had given me a jar of delicious homemade biscuits. She had given me this jar before, and then I remembered a bit later, but still in the past. Okay, so had given me. 7. I had gone into the kitchen. I went into the kitchen. I was going into the kitchen. I think we need to see number 8 in order to answer this one. Okay, yes, okay. So this is okay by itself. I had gone into the kitchen, I went into the kitchen, and I was going into the kitchen. Then she just lists the other events that happen, like a list, like a chronological list. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this suggests it should be past simple. So had gone, went, or was going. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the live. So we're on number 7 right now. So we need to decide if it's going to be past simple, went, past perfect, had gone, or past continuous, was going. Of course, if it was going, then the next thing in the sentence would need to be something else that stopped that action from happening. So, for example, I was going into the kitchen and I saw a mouse, so I turned around and ran away. I was going into the kitchen and the phone rang, so I went to answer the phone. When we use continuous, there's usually another activity that happened to stop that activity or interrupts that activity. I'm going to write this in the comments because I think it's quite helpful. Past continuous. A new student. Perfect. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoy the live lesson, your first live lesson. So it wouldn't be I was going. It would be I went, past simple. I went into the kitchen. Number 8 would also be past simple because it's just a list of things that happened. I opened the fridge and poured some milk in a big glass. So all of these things are just things that I did in the past. They're not interrupting each other. They're not causing each other to stop or to change the direction of what I was about to do. It's simply this happened, this happened, this happened. So past simple. Number 10. Then I looked for the kitchen chair, but. Then I was looking for the kitchen chair, but. Then I had looked for the kitchen chair, but. Then I looked for the kitchen chair. Then I was looking for the kitchen chair. Then I had looked for the kitchen chair. So because we start the sentence with then I, it kind of gives us a clue that it's just the next thing that happened. It's just adding on to the list. Okay, new student wants to know how to learn English. You can absolutely learn English through this channel. There's a lot of videos you can study, or I leave a lot of links to helpful websites in the comments of my videos. And there are some really good English teachers on YouTube. I think my favorites are English with Lucy, IELTS with Liz, IELTS Advantage, and there's another English teacher. I think she's called Caroline, and she's American. She's very good as well. So, because this is just, again, another past thing that happened, I would say, then I looked for the kitchen chair. I agree, Lotfi. It could be I had looked for the kitchen chair, but it just feels a bit over the top for this sentence. I had looked for the kitchen chair, but then I got tired and I sat down and I couldn't be bothered to look anymore. It would make sense in a sentence like that, but because this person was just looking for the chair and it wasn't there, we would say, I looked for the kitchen chair, but it wasn't there. Somebody took it away, was taking it away, or had taken it away. So the options again for you. I looked for the kitchen chair, but it wasn't there. Somebody took it away. Somebody was taking it away. Somebody had taken it away. I'm from England. Yes, I don't know if you couldn't guess by my accent, but I am from England. I'm from the south of England. So on a really good day, a really clear day, I can see France. So think about this sentence. Somebody took, had taken, was taking it away. This had to have happened before she started looking for the chair. So it is a past situation before another past situation. Past action before a past action. So it must be past perfect, not past continuous, not past simple. So in that case, it needs to be somebody had taken it away. Somebody had taken it away before I started looking for it. And there were no biscuits in the biscuit jar. Somebody, this one's easy, somebody was eating them all. Somebody ate them all. Somebody had eaten them all. Somebody was eating them all. Somebody ate them all. Or somebody had eaten them all. Somebody was eating would be continuous, wouldn't it? And it's not continually happening right now because we would see her. We would see this person eating the biscuits. Somebody ate them all, past simple, yes, that's grammatically correct. But somebody had eaten them all is a more advanced way to explain what went on. And that's something else I should mention is usually past simple is absolutely fine for any situation. This happened, this happened, this happened. But when we're trying to advance our English, that's when the perfect tense comes in. Because we're playing with the time zones and the timelines. So somebody had eaten them all before I started looking for them. I was sure I was putting the jar there, put the jar there, or had put the jar there. I was sure I put the jar there, had put the jar there, or was putting the jar there. So in this case, it would be past simple. Makes sense here. I was sure I put the jar there the previous day. We could also say I was sure I had put the jar there. Both of those make sense in this sentence. Past simple or past perfect. Because of course putting the jar there was before you started looking for the jar, and past simple, I put the jar there and now it's not there. And I was eating only one cookie, ate only one cookie, or had eaten only one cookie. So was eating, ate, or had eaten. So it would not, of course, be was eating, because we can't use past continuous to explain something that's finished. I couldn't say, well, I mean, I could say I was eating a pizza and then this happened, but I couldn't say, for example, oh, yesterday I was eating only one cookie. That doesn't make sense because the cookie's gone, it's finished. So it would have to be, again, ate or had eaten. Now, they both have the same meaning, a past action that was completed. But of course, for more advanced English, we would say, and I had eaten only one cookie, because a past action before we started looking for the cookie jar. There are a couple more here. So we can go through these, and then of course I will link this in the comments so you can go through. There's also a couple more pages, so there are more exercises you can do. So 16, a few minutes later, I had drunk my glass of milk, drank my glass of milk, or was drinking my glass of milk when. So think about the context here. The rest of them have been past simple or past perfect. But here, a few minutes later, something was happening when something else interrupted it. So continuous tense. So I had drunk, I drank, or I was drinking. A few minutes later, I had drunk, I drank, or I was drinking. We would use continuous, which of course in this case is was drinking. I was drinking my glass of milk when I heard a loud noise, had heard a loud noise, or was hearing a loud noise. Heard, had heard, or was hearing. Heard, had heard, or was hearing. So here we would say, when I heard a loud noise, past simple. I was drinking, past continuous, and this thing interrupted what I was doing. So I heard a loud noise and it interrupted this continued action. coming from the dining room. I had gone in there quickly. I went there quickly. I was going there quickly. I had gone there quickly. I went there quickly. I was going there quickly. Do you want to use past simple, past perfect, or past continuous here? Good. Yeah, exactly. Good, good. A little bit delayed, the comments coming through, but exactly, well done. So number 18, we have had gone, went, or was going. Had gone, went, or was going. I went, yep, past simple. We could use past simple. I went there quickly. We could, okay, so we could technically say I had gone there quickly and then something else happened. I had gone there quickly and I fell over the rug. But I feel like this sentence, Lotfi, you're correct. It just needs a simple past tense. I went there quickly and I had opened the door, was opening the door, opened the door. Again, this is a past simple sentence. This happened, this happened, this happened. I opened the door. There's no interruption here. It's just, I did this, followed by this. I couldn't believe my eyes. An enormous monkey ate the biscuits excitedly on the kitchen chair. Oh, how did she go from the dining room to the kitchen? Oh, okay, the monkey stole the kitchen chair, took it to the dining room and ate the biscuits. Okay, I understand. An enormous monkey ate the biscuits excitedly on the chair. An enormous monkey was eating the biscuits excitedly on the kitchen chair, or an enormous monkey had eaten the biscuits excitedly on the kitchen chair. Now, the hint here, the clue in this sentence, is the fact that we have the word excitedly, because she's explaining how this action happened or was happening, so it suggests that it was a continued action. She wouldn't know it was excitedly or not excitedly if she wasn't seeing it happen in front of her at that very time. So that gives you the clue it has to be continuous. So options again, an enormous monkey ate, an enormous monkey was eating, or an enormous monkey had eaten. So as I said, the clue is excitedly because we understand how it happens, meaning it has to be continuous. An enormous monkey was eating the biscuits excitedly on the kitchen chair. So the past tenses can sometimes be confusing because it's difficult to imagine, okay, it's happening in the past, but it's continued, but it's ended. And of course, then you have the past perfect continuous as well, which makes it even more confusing. But we won't talk about that today. The thing I want you to remember is it's used for storytelling, and it's definitely more advanced English to use the past perfect. So using the past simple, if that's easy, if that's your comfort zone, stay in that comfort zone until you feel comfortable speaking about the past. When you want to start telling stories in English, repeating things that happened or you saw, that's when you'll need to start thinking, was it a continued action or had it finished at that point? Or was it interrupted at that point? So for example, I want to tell you a story about a snake that was coming to attack my cat. Past continuous, because I'm explaining it in a way that it's happening. but in the past. Or, sorry, I'm late to the lesson. My cat had been attacked by a snake, so I had to help it. Past perfect, because I'm telling you why I'm late to the lesson. It's a previous action. Okay, so that's it for our lesson today. I'm going to leave the link to this website in the comments, so feel free to go and do the exercise for yourself. If you have any questions, please do let me know, and I will answer them when I can. If I can. Some of your questions are very complex sometimes. Thank you so much for your support and for always commenting. Thank you, Lotfi, for being the #1 supporter on this channel. I do read the comments and it means a lot when everybody enjoys the videos and finds them helpful. So enjoy the rest of your day. If Sunday is the last day of your weekend, I hope you enjoy it. If Sunday is the first day of your working week, I hope you have a great start to the week. So I'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.